Let's get into the mailbag.
Mailbag.
I forgot it. I was waiting since Monday, and I forgot. I was just sitting here, and then it didn't happen. And I went, oh, that's me again.
Oh, the absence of Mike is felt.
We need you.
Oh, my gosh. That was like a gunshot. You said it so fast to sneak it in there. All right, this is the mailbag section of the show. We are answering questions from the listeners, trying to give you some perspective, trying to relate these things to some of the decisions you have to make on your fantasy team each and every week. If you have a question, it's real easy. You go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, click the submit a question button. If you have an urgent trade question, you want some feedback on your roster, who to start, who to sit, that's where you go. You can also call us 302-464-TFFB. Leave us a voicemail question. We're going to answer some today. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. Let's go with Matt in Philadelphia. Who is a better keeper pick going into next year? Jeremy Langford or Dion Lewis? This league is a PPR, but let's just talk about Langford as a talent. Let's talk about Lewis for those that are dynasty keeper league owners. I think we're kind of seeing Langford's time maybe evaporating soon in terms of relevance this year. I don't want to speak too soon, though, because it's John Fox, and maybe Forte's at another 6 weeks for all we know. But we're not expecting it. So both of these guys are projecting more towards next year.
Yeah. So the real question for this for this answer is what's going to happen with Matt Forte, his contract. Is he going to be re-signed? If Forte leaves, if Forte is not a part of the Chicago Bears next year, then clearly the answer would be a runaway home run. Langford would be the guy. So your high upside pick as to who you want to keep, I think the highest upside would be Langford if you have to keep him early.
Which you most likely don't have to do.
Right. So if you don't have to do that and Forte is back, Langford is a guy that you're going to be able to get later in the draft. And, I'm not excited about keeping either of these guys, to be honest.
Do you have a gut feeling on Forte's situation? Do you think he'll be back? Because I do not.
You do not think he'll be back, or you
I
do not have a gut feeling?
I do not think he will be back.
Yeah, I feel like he will be back. So,
yeah.
I mean, I just don't think that there's a better option for him to go elsewhere. That being said, they were not threatening, but they were, accepting trade offers. They are looking to build the new Bears.
Well, the new Bears are Kevin White and Jeremy Langford, Alshon Jeffrey, hopefully, if he's re-signed, which is just still bewildering to me that he's not.
Well, you saw it right last year with Dallas. They needed to sign Dez. They needed to sign DeMarco Murray.
Yep. And
they signed the wide receiver because running backs are easier to find, and they've got the guy in tow.
Exactly.
So you might be onto something here.
Yeah, and so talk to me about Dion Lewis, though, because Lewis is going to be coming off an ACL injury in an offense that's always remaking itself. I like Lewis. They stuck with Lewis. They gave him money. So is Lewis just going to slide back into this role next year?
No, he could, but he's not just going to slide back into it. When he comes back, he's got to earn it. The Patriots are always moving on to the next thing. If they go out and they get another guy and they like him, what I'm more interested to see this offseason is not who they draft, but who they sign. They have a history of going and signing other middle-of-the-pack guys. I mean, they signed Danny Amendola. They signed Wes Welker from the Dolphins. They liked what they saw. They signed Dion Lewis. He goes out and scouts players on other teams, not just rookies coming in, and says, this guy can help our system. If they go and sign somebody like that, then I'm a little bit less likely to just crown Dion Lewis with that role.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think good perspective. If you're a dynasty owner and you're having to sit there and make a decision right now, it's a tough one, but I actually lean Langford for the long term. Because if you're in a keeper league, a dynasty league, yeah, okay, maybe Forte's back. Does he got a year left?
Right.
I mean, at least you've got the guy that we've seen go out and dominate in the passing game and the running game. All right, Chris in Chicago. He has a rest of season question for you, Jason. Would you rather, well, for us, I guess, would you rather want Carlos Williams or Danny Woodhead rest of season?
Oh, Danny Woodhead. To me, that's easy because, we get a lot of questions. Hey, rank these guys. And in the list, there's starters and there's backups. Rank these guys rest of season. Well, look, Carlos Williams, if Shady goes down, he's going to be ranked super high. If Shady's in there, he's not. And I'm never going to project an injury to a starter ahead of a guy. I can grab him and have him there on my bench, But if I'm just statting these guys out, I'm going to stat him where he is. He's a backup. Danny Woodhead in a half-point PPR or full-point PPR is like a top 5 or 6 running back right now. You've got to go Woodhead.
I completely agree. And Billy in the Gulf of Mexico, he's actually in it. He's actually he's actually in the Gulf right now swimming. Would you want – this is a follow-up of sorts. What about Forsett or Woodhead rest of the season?
I like it. Forsett to me is the guy in Baltimore. He's who they're – I don't think they're going to be testing out Buck Allen the way that I believe, they didn't invest in Buck Allen as the future. They just grabbed the guy who can come in and plug in behind Justin Forsett, who they re-signed. On the flip side, San Diego's lost a lot of games, and they really do need to figure out who Melvin Gordon is. So these are 2 starters, both good. Both have been good this year. Both have been running well. If I'm projecting rest of season, I'd probably take Forsett.
Does it change if it's a full-point PPR league? Or not really?
Probably not, but that does give a little bit more credence to Woodhead. The reason I say probably not is because Forsett catches passes too, just not at the same clip. So you'd give a slight bump to Woodhead if it's a full point PPR.
If it's me, I would want Forsett because even though Woodhead's performed exceptionally, I have a hard time trusting a situation when I guess Woodhead is like Dion Lewis this year, where I should probably trust him a little bit more. But it's hard when they don't get between the tackle carry work automatically, and he's been impressive. So
Danny Woodhead has been one of my favorite people this year to recommend targeting in a trade. You want to know why?
Because nobody thinks he's that great.
Nobody respects him. The owners of Danny Woodhead don't even think he's that good. The only guys who actually give him the respect that Danny Woodhead legitimately deserves are the people who normally you wouldn't expect to do that because they just look at the number next to a guy and go, he's the 5th running back.
Yeah.
He's number 5. And
if you remember early season, Mike traded him away because he didn't believe it could be sustained.
Yeah, he traded him away for
C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, which would have been great if he was not able to then flip C.J. Anderson into LaShawn McCoy.
All right, Joe in Worcester wants to know another rest of season question. Is it Brandon Marshall or is it Demaryius Thomas rest of season for you?
Rest of season, it's definitely going to be Brandon Marshall. We don't know the quarterback situation, and while I think, as crazy as it is, that Brock Osweiler will be good for Demaryius Thomas, Brandon Marshall has been an absolute plug-and-play wide receiver 1. When he's on the field, he gets far more red zone opportunities, and he is used non-stop. So Brandon Marshall, love him.
I agree with you. What's the next question we have on here?
Zach in San Diego wants to know another rest of season schedule. Get a lot of these questions of rest of season. This is where trade deadlines are coming up, and you're going, I got to make a decision not just for this week. Tony Romo or Matt Ryan?
I'm going to take the upside potential of Tony Romo here. I think that he's had enough time to get well and that they're not going to throw him out there at a risk. I think the weapon he has with Dez, obviously Ryan has Julio, but I just haven't seen enough consistency from Ryan in terms of multi-touchdown games that are going to win you games. I personally would be done with the doldrums of Matt Ryan. I'd grab Tony Romo, and then if I had to stream somebody else, I would, because I don't feel like I'm losing much cutting Matt Ryan right now.
Completely agree 100%.
All right, Tyler in Pensacola, Marshawn Lynch or Mark Ingram rest of season?
I think
I actually answered this one earlier.
You did?
I did. Someone asked this one via our website and sent it through on an email.
I'm going to guess that your answer was the easy one, which is Mark Ingram.
It is, and it has a lot to do with how nice his schedule looks to end the year, not just the fact he's ahead of Lynch right now. If it was a neutral situation where, moving forward, I'm not sure exactly who I'd pick, but Ingram's been so good, and his schedule in the playoffs is just wonderful.
Yeah, we talked up Tim Hightower for a small minute.
Did we talk him up?
Well, we mentioned his name, which for
Okay.
him right now is like really being talked up. He's like, someone talked about me.
Oh, man, it's not 2008?
No. So the reality there is that when Ingram was in that game, after Kyrie Robinson went down, Ingram was on the field for 88% of snaps the next game. But then this last week, it was down in the 40s, and the reason was because he was gone for the entire middle portion of that game with some kind of injury. I'm not sure what it was. But his usage after Kyrie Robinson goes out, I believe, is going to be more in that 80% of snaps. They do not trust C.J. Spiller. His schedule's great. You get the red zone.
You're on the same side, then.
I love Mark Ingram.
That makes sense. I mean, do you think we were talking about this earlier? Sean Payton, they just let Rob Ryan go. Do you think Payton's back next year?
No.
I think it's done.
Yeah.
His time in New Orleans is over, and
there's so much going on with the ownership there that is embarrassing to say the least, with all of the questions as to who owns it. Is there a family dispute? And I believe Sean Payton even has a clause in his contract where if the ownership or management above him changes, he can be released. So I think, the Saints have pretty much come out and said
his contract's up anyway, right?
Yeah. So I don't expect him to stick around, and I think that'll be good for him. I expect, if we're calling it early,
yeah,
I think he's going to be the coach of the Indianapolis Colts and Andrew Luck. That is a super way too early prediction of the week.
Of the year.
Yeah.
Actually, of the years.
Yeah, we make those yearly, not weekly.
It would make it exciting.
Oh, I
for
would
Andrew
love
Luck
that.
owners, maybe not Drew Brees owners.
No, well, Drew Brees, how much time does he really have left? If you could go from Brees.
Last time he heard you say that, he threw 7 touchdowns.
Well, he's not going to this week, and I guarantee it. He's on bye.
Yes, indeed.